Okay, welcome to this final stream before the update comes tomorrow. As a reminder for everyone watching this now or later, this is a live stream, which means we're going to be talking and interacting, and it won't be like a pretty little video that some people upload. It's going to be a little bit more raw, I think, and so I'm excited for that part of it, and excited to interact a little bit. We will be talking about the update in speculative terms. Of course, we have the press release from Apple and the announcement on the actual Logic page, and they've talked about a few of the bigger features that are already in the update. But of course, there are going to be a lot of things we don't know until tomorrow when it comes out. We don't know exactly when it's coming out. It could be an early morning release. It could be an afternoon release. They've done both with different things. The 11 release, Logic 11, which they announced like a week or two before, did come out around 2:40 or 2:50 in the afternoon. I only remember that because I remember doing a live stream in the morning as we counted down, and then I had to take a break to go pick up my kids from school, which was at 2:40, and it came out right as I was in the middle of doing that. So we'll see. We'll see what time it comes out tomorrow, and it'll be exciting to find all the details. Of course, we'll do some content at some point during the day tomorrow. I'm not going to cancel my university classes to do a lot of content about Logic. So I'll be teaching for a few different class periods, but I'll do a stream in the middle of those and then a stream in the afternoon. And then in the evening, we will be doing the ever so sacred reading of the release notes. We read all of them and go through every single thing and talk about what they mean, if they mean anything at all. And so join us tomorrow evening for a reading of the release notes. I think that's one of my favorite things we do on this channel personally, because I always learn something new about the update from that. A couple comments already coming in. I put them up on the screen today so we can see them later as well. Let's see. Graham says, hey there, pretty excited about this update. Z, Purple Haze says, hello. And then Matthew says, hopefully we will get some news this afternoon. They have a creators only, invite only in LA today through Thursday. They are supposed to get hands-on tests, I believe. Cool. I saw that was happening. I'm not invited. Even if I had been invited, I wouldn't have been able to go, but that's cool. I'm like, someday I hope this channel graduates into actually being one that Apple for some reason doesn't hate any longer, but that's okay. Musictron says, I'm hoping for ARA silicon support. I mean, I don't know, but I've seen some clues from people who I do know that they know if it's happening or not, and it was not promising, so I'm guessing not this time. And then a lot one says, are they purposefully mysterious about release time to create interest? Seems like that would be the only reason to make it mysterious. I think Apple has a Santa Claus complex. I think that they think everything's more exciting if there's mystery involved. We've seen this a number of times from big creators across the universe. J.J. Abrams always talks about the box that he bought as a kid, the mystery box that he's never opened, because the mystery of what's inside is more magical than actually probably what is inside. And he carries around that box. I mean, that's just like this mentality that people think that we want. And in some cases, we don't necessarily want it, but I do think it feeds us in a way that's really interesting. And so keeping it a mystery could be one part of it. Just logistics could be another part. It could be that, they're tying off loose ends and things, and they never promise a certain time, because if they can't meet it, then it feels like they broke a promise. I don't know. It's weird. Apple has this weird fetish with keeping things mysterious, where Other companies don't. And I got to tell you something. Apple's still one of the bigger companies, right? Something they're doing is working, so I wouldn't judge too harshly. Let's see. Matthew says my biggest question with these apps is, will you be able to use files interchangeably between Logic subscription versus as the one-time purchase? I know they will have different icons, but what about? So everything we're reading, at least on the limited stuff that they put out, says that they're going to be exactly the same. They're going to be the same program. That's one of the reasons why, even though in the press release, I think this is my own opinion, and it was shut down by a few people online. But my opinion is that they said on there, at least with the session players, they announced the new synthesizer session player, and then in the notes it says that Silicon is recommended to use them. To me, that meant, well, maybe there's a chance that the standalone version won't require silicon computing. This is not a hill I'm willing to die on because I don't have any Intel computers left. I'm all on the M series, and I'm all in on the M series. I love my Silicon Macs. I've got an M4, an M1, Ultra, Studio. I mean, I've got the computers. I'm not concerned about it, but I just love reading into the notes and seeing if I can figure that out. I think everybody who's on an Intel computer should sell it or throw it away and get a Silicon Mac. That's my own opinion. But they're saying that the new Creator Studio requires silicon. Even though, again, in the release, I saw that some of the apps don't. Like Motion, I think it was just recommended for it. But it said that Logic was one that requires it for the new Creator Studio. And so because the apps are exactly the same, then the non-subscription model should require the silicon as well. We'll find out tomorrow for that detail. I don't know if it really matters. What we know for positive sake is that even if it were not just for silicon, that most of the new features would only work with silicon anyway, because that's the case with a lot of the newest features anyway. Stem splitter, Chroma Glow. I mean, those all require, even some of the mastering assistant options require silicon. You can't do all of it on there. And so it doesn't matter. It's like the age of the Intel processor for Apple is gone. Let's see. I'm just reading through some comments. I hope they will fix flex and follow, CPU spikes, and ARA support. What issue, by the way, Source, are you having with flex and follow? I'm just curious. I haven't had any issues with flex and follow. I know it's quirky sometimes, and every once in a while I have to like sort out turning it on and off and figuring it out. But what specific issue are you having with that? And then another comment, I think the main thing will be the new subscription model and not a host of new features. I mean, wouldn't that be lame? It could be. I'm guessing we're going to get a lot of like quality of life improvements, though. Things that weren't worth mentioning on the website or in the press release. But the Logic team has had a long time to work on this. If they are just releasing what they said, if that's all, we're getting the new session player synthesizer and then the new chord track analysis tool. If that was all, we haven't even gotten a teeny bug fix in 6 months. I mean, that was the last update of any size, and that was a teeny one. It's been closer to a year for anything of substantial new feature type offering. A chord track that we can now analyze our songs. That's, for me, one of my number one features that I've been wanting. I hate the chord track in its current state. I think it's powerful once you have chords in there, but getting the chords in there is a pain in the butt. I want to be able to just sit down at the MIDI keyboard, play a chord progression, and then put that on there. Or if I was a guitar player, just strum out the chords with the microphone even if that's not the track you're using in the song, to be able to have the chords, analyze them as the chord track, and then use all of the session players, that's useful to me. That's super useful. And then the synthesizer player, I mean, I'm definitely going to experiment with it and use it. But if those were the only two things that we were getting, which we're not, we're definitely getting some other things. There was already, you could see inside the piano roll, there was a new like lock to chord or lock to scale option. Small things that we can't see from the screenshots or they're not telling us. There's going to be a lot of things. If nothing else, some bug fixes. But we don't have access to that. Somebody does, of course, but we don't. And there's going to be some creators putting out a lot of videos tomorrow. I love this about this time of year when the updates come out. And I love it when they make an announcement about the updates. And then they tell us exactly when the updates are coming out. And then you see a bunch of YouTube channels that typically talk about Logic keep their mouths shut. Like, I haven't seen any speculative videos from the big Logic Pro YouTube channels. I haven't seen any content about this, even though there's some stuff announced. And that means that they're behind some sort of embargo, NDA, and they can't talk about it. And so it just leads towards other speculation from us. But that's cool. I mean, we're going to get some good content from some of them because they're going to have access to it. But the whole creator thing that's happening right now, I mean, they're really trying to push this, not necessarily with audio creators and music creators. I know that Logic Pro and MainStage are included in this and the iPad version of Logic, but we're not the focus. There's no way we're the focus of this whole new creator studio. They said that we know that the subscription model will bring extra content to some of the apps, and Logic Pro is not one of them. They said it outright. Logic Pro is not one of the apps that's going to have additional material and content coming because you're a subscriber. So what's the point of being a subscriber to the Creator Studio as a Logic user then? This much is what that's the amount of value we're going to get out of this by being in that from the Logic ecosystem. Because they said out front, there's not going to be extra content for Logic users. There's no extra AI features. The versions of Logic are going to be exactly the same. And so if you already own a version of Logic, the only reason to join the Creator Studio then would be to get all of the other stuff. Maybe you don't have Final Cut Pro, although the Final Cut Pro and Logic bundle was as a steal up until now. And so that's been a good deal. And maybe you wanted to get Pixelmator Pro, but I don't. I might subscribe to it just to see the ecosystem of how it's all working together and things, but it'll be one of those things where I go for like the trial and then pull the plug on it and just keep using Logic. I already have Final Cut Pro. I already have Motion and MainStage and Compressor and Pages and Keynote. And I don't need a bunch of fancy templates for Keynote to look like every other person who has a subscription to that. I mean, I'll make my own if I really need something custom, or I'll just use one of the ones that we already have. Okay, let's get some catch up on some comments. Okay, Matthew says, do you know much about the chord in track feature? Will that work for audio or MIDI? It says both. So we're going to be able to analyze audio or MIDI files to do the chord ID. That's what they're calling it. The best thing since learning music theory at the university. Elate says, what is most missing that another DAW actually does? That's a great question. What does Logic not have right now? I would love to actually hear everybody answer that question. There's a few of you watching. What does everybody feel like is missing? The biggest one, there's one massive thing that almost all of the other workstations currently have in Logic doesn't, and that's ARA support. ARA support would be a massive game changer for a number of people's workflows, mine included. I use Synthesizer V. There's an ARA version. I can't use that inside Logic. Even if I went back to Rosetta, which is a dying format and will be gone before you know it, it doesn't matter. It's like that just wrecks everything else in Logic. So I have to use or I have to use Synthesizer V as a plugin. And a couple massive things are wrong with that. One of them is I have to keep a tempo that is steady through the whole song. I can't do like a tempo map that changes over time because the Synthesizer V plugin won't chase that tempo correctly unless it's the ARA version. So ARA is a huge thing, right? If we got ARA tomorrow, there are a number of people who would say, okay, I can stay on Logic Pro. The fact that it's been a year since we've gotten any major updates, or almost a year, just under, means that if it doesn't come tomorrow, when are we looking at ARA support, if ever? I mean, we're all gonna be a decade older at the point that it finally comes, and that's weird. It's like people have explained to me the whole process of how the redesign for plugins when we got Universal and the silicon version of Logic. I mean, people have explained why this has happened, but the fact that Apple sits up on the hill and says, we are not going to fix this or even worry about it, even though it's an industry standard thing, is something that the industry wouldn't have accepted, 20, 30 years ago. I mean, it's very conflicting for me. But there's actually worse. I mean, I can make Synthesizer V work. Sure. But there are people who are trying to do things with, Melodyne and Vocal Line. And there's others that are coming out because this is like a cool thing. The new instrument plugin from Salamoni as well, Tonalic, does that ARA thing with the Fender Studio Pro. By the way, we should talk about this today. I don't know if you've seen the news about Native Instruments and how they just filed for solvency in Germany, which means all of their assets are now going to be restructured and sold off. That's a simplification. We don't know exactly what's going to happen to things, but that whole company just essentially said, we quit. We can't do this. We can't make it work financially. The head of Native Instruments and the people in charge there are no longer in control of what happens, and they have to work within the system to get financial closure on all the bills. I mean, that's pretty serious. How many of you use Isotope on a daily basis? We don't know who's going to own or how that's going to work, or if there are going to be updates. And in a world where updates are required because people not required. So here's the thing. Just get used to whatever operating system you're on right this moment. And don't do any updates until Isotope has an update structure plan announced in place. That's your future. Because if you need Isotope and you want to keep using it and they haven't figured that out, which could take months or years to really sort it out. And if someone else buys it, I mean, what does that mean for updates? Who knows? So you're in a situation right now where if you need something from one of the branches of that company, you better just hold tight into whatever operating system is currently working. Don't even think that maybe it would work and maybe it would be okay. If your business relies on that, you're stuck for the moment until they sort it out. It's a huge deal for our business. It means that any company, we already knew this, but it's no more real example of this. Here, I'll pull this up on the screen so you can see it. I have this down. Let's see. There we go. Yeah. Preliminary insolvency as of, well, today. I don't know exactly when this was filed. But this CDM site apparently has seen the documents and they know what's happening. It's a really good article. I'll post, I don't think I can post the link, but there's the link. You can just do a search for Native Instruments and insolvency, and this will pop up on Reddit or something. Whoa, that's crazy. But that's a huge shift. And I'm going to say something that if you're not an Apple fan or a Logic fan, this is like the worst fear of everybody. Like, wouldn't this be amazing time for Apple to buy like Contact and get all those libraries and banks and put them into Logic Pro? I would prefer in every case to see those plugins remain open to all workstations. I really would love to see them all stay open to everybody. At the same time, it's a good time to buy them if they can get them, for 10 cents on the dollar or something, right? I mean, why not? Apple seems to have some money sitting around. They're not putting time into updates for us, so maybe they'll just buy some more things. I mean, some people might switch to Logic if Isotope was built into it instead of a thing, but Apple might ruin some of those things too. Let's see. Someone is, hey, Plastodon, I see that you said that. I'm catching up here. If Logic gets automated AI mixing, I'm dropping the DAW like a hot potato. Nobody's doing that yet. I mean, not in a traditional workstation. Of course, we have AI mixing when it comes to things like Suno, when they create the whole song from scratch. Everybody's been talking about how Isotope has really suffered lately. Now you know why. I mean, this is part of it. But it's like we think of these companies as going to be around forever. And it's never going to look the same without that as it was. Let's see. SourceForce says there are a few bugs in Flex. When you quantize audio and try to move the audio file, it changes the length, won't line up with when duplicating. So I have had a couple of those issues, and you're right. That is like the last frontier of this. Overall, and I don't know if you're on the latest version of Logic, but it was worse. All of that was worse, and it's gotten better each time. I would not be surprised if in this update tomorrow, in the release notes, we're going to do a release notes party tomorrow night. Everybody check out a stream for that. It'll be in the evening at some point, Mountain Standard Time. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I bet you there will be some flex, pitch, and time tweaks, updates, refinements. There almost always are. That is one thing that they're constantly working on implementing better. And I expect with the new chord track, chord ID, content ID, whatever it's called, thing, it makes sense to continue to update the flex part of Logic as well. So that's the part I nerd out about, the under the hood stuff, that every update we start sounding better and better. Although it's so good right now. There are some quirks and maybe some shortcomings, but every piece of software has them. Logic, in my opinion, has one of the best still. And it's good. Let's see. So Burak says, not AI mixing, but AI arrangement is what I need. That's what they need. Cool. I mean, it's like I was teaching a class at the university yesterday, and we're in our Studio H, which is a really nice SSL room. And It's got good speakers, good rack of equipment, tons of equipment that students can bring in, a nice Orion 32 interface, and a student, bless their heart, seems like it's like I'm just meeting these students for like the second time this year, and some of them second time ever. And he's like, what is the point of the SSL? I mean, is is it really better than just doing something in Pro Tools or Logic? And I mean, the honest answer is kind of. It's like analog summing is still a thing, and it still sounds different and to some people than digital summing, although that's getting better every time we turn around. And when I explain how to do things in the analog world, it involves like patch cables and automation for the board, although that board doesn't have great automation. It's not easy to use. And so there's some difficulties with that. And I got to tell the student, in some ways, having the like load up your song in Ableton, and you're going to be able to recall all of your effects, work on the song for 5 minutes, close it, open up another one, work on that. There's a certain amount of efficiency and quality that comes from a workstation that is hard on the big console. But does that make the console like irrelevant or not worth the money? I mean, that thing's expensive. $100,000, somewhere in that vicinity. And yeah, you're not going to be buying one of those for your home studio, but you can buy a Mac Mini Pro or whatever those are, and or a laptop. You can get a silicon MacBook Air for under $1,000 and Logic for very cheap, and you could be running stuff on there without ever needing that big console. But there's still something magical for me to work on the big console and to have all of the SSL EQ and dynamics and a patch bay with outboard gear, some real distressors and all kinds of cool. We have a Bricasti reverb in that room. I mean, $8,000 or something for that thing. It sounds incredible. But we have the QRS in Logic, and that thing sounds incredible. I mean, they're like twin or related reverbs in some way in terms of the quality. They're different, but they're at a great level. And so at some point, we're teaching the students how to use the big analog console so that they understand how to go into any studio in the world and work inside their system. But that doesn't mean it's always going to be the best way. And now we're talking in the comments about AI mixing and doing that kind of thing. I don't think we're going to get AI mixing in Logic in this version, because I feel like even if there was, I wouldn't probably use it. I don't use live loops in Logic. It doesn't speak to me in that way. I want to be the one in charge of the moving of the faders and the crafting of the sound. I love that part of this process. And if you're like, well, that's like, it takes a lot of time and it's hard work. Good. Good. It takes work. I'm glad we got to that consensus that there should be some effort involved with the music making process instead of just prompting something. Oof. I'm talking too much, but that's the whole point of this. Zach and Wolf says, I pray for theme customization. Hell to the yeah. Let's make it so that I don't have to look at gray on gray on gray. Now, I will say gray on gray on gray with Logic at one point in my life was okay. Turns out the grayer I get, the harder it is to see some of the gray on the screen. What an old man complaint, but it's legit. It is legit. It's like, I'm surprised that they're like so stuck on this gray on gray on gray. Let's get some customization for the interface, better color schemes, better contrast views, at least some choices. Are they going to do that? Doubt it. Something about the identity of this software. It's like oof. It's like trying to tell Disney to do something different. Good luck. I do not think it will drop at midnight. That's just my view. I think in a worldwide market, I think that the times here are still the most important. It may come at like 4 in the morning, but again, I think that it's probably likely to come in the hours between 10:30 and 3. That's my guess. Based on all of the other updates they've ever released. Only one or two of them have come overnight, and I think they probably saw some weird drops in downloads and things that scared them, and so they didn't do that again. And I think they did that partially to help with all the press release of the content creators. But on those ones that they did them in the middle of the night, they didn't do them with an announcement beforehand. They just came as a surprise, which they do like to have done in the past. And so with this announcement, they know the world is going to be watching. They're going to try to get it in before Europe goes to bed, but during the day so that all the stuff can like pop out on YouTube and really feed the algorithm and the machine of all of the social media stuff that'll help make this roll. That's my opinion. We'll find out tomorrow. I will not be up at midnight to make a video if they do. Let's see. I'm just reading some comments. Good comments. So, Burek, you're saying you have some melodies and ideas, but you can't make a song. There's already tools for that, and it's not Logic. That's more like Suno or something, really. Matthew says, have you noticed the trend in people trying to make jingles for brands ever since the Dr. Pepper Girls idea got picked up? Pretty cool trend. I mean, we're going to continue to see trends. Right now, social media is the engine that feeds everything. I was talking about this again with students, and I was like, how many of you are like, working on social media? And only like a fraction of them were. And they were making disparaging remarks about some of the social media platforms. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's true. That's difficult. It's hard. But that's like our reality for the moment. And so I hope that you all will, I was talking to them, I hope that they will all take the best parts of all of the tools we have and make something amazing out of them. Plastodon says, did I see that Ace Studio paired up with East West? Oh, no. Did that just happen over the weekend, or when did that happen? Ace Studio, East West. I'm looking. So it says that on Ace Studio. So Ace Studio partners with East West Sounds. Cool. So that was a Friday thing. They just announced it on Friday. I've been overloaded with watching news from NAMM and things, but that's really cool. I'm just looking at this announcement on the Ace Studio. I mean, so here's the thing. East West. Let's talk about them for a second. They do mostly sound libraries, massive ones, film scoring. They have a few other instruments that are not just sample based, and they have some really cool things, but they're like an aging company without doing a lot of really cool things. Like they're not keeping me talking about their stuff. A studio is, they really started off as a voice tool like Synthesizer V, and now, man, that'll be something worth looking into. Revolutionize AI-powered music creation. Ugh. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Skeptical always, but they have so many sounds. I have like 4 or 5 of their banks. Big ones, like their big banks. And then at various times I've been a Composer Cloud subscriber, but again, subscription fatigue was setting in even then. That was a few years ago, and I just let it go because it's like the amount I would use it wasn't matching up the amount that I was paying. It doesn't, Jeff, it doesn't look like there's any outward changes to the stem splitter. I don't see any changes, for instance, to adding like more separation function, but I bet you it will continue to be refined under the hood. That's my guess. But we don't have like yet the ability to break out vocal harmonies and things. The stem splitter in Logic is ahead of every other single workstation, but not ahead of some of the online tools. There are some online ones that are still better and can do more. And but they require you to upload your stuff into their servers, and that's where I draw my line with any of that stuff. I'm not going to use it if I have to upload my stuff to your site. There's only one place that I'll do that right now, and that is Automy for some vocal stuff. I've got so many videos to make this week, but they're one that I really want to make about their harmony tool. Nobody else is really doing anything like that. That's cool. I nerd out about the things that are unique among all these tools. For instance, I don't know if anybody who's watched my channel a lot maybe noticed that I've replaced my headphones. These are Biodynamic, the DT 990 Pros, 1990 Pros, and I have this pair primarily because they just released this headphone lab. I've made a number of videos about this. I wish we had more like that with Logic and Apple. For instance, Apple could do this with maybe like their AirPod Maxes. So what they do is you type in the serial number of the exact headphone you're using, and this is the curve of these as measured at their factory. So they have a measurement of what this headphone pair that I'm wearing sound like. And then this plugin, which is a free plugin, but because you already paid for the headphones, compensates in the software. I mean, how smart to add that like little perk to their headphones. A lot of people might already have Biodynamic headphones, and you could get that plugin and do the same thing without having to add another cost. No subscription model, no like monthly payments. They just gave it away. Like, Biodynamic, let's talk. I want to marry you. That sounds amazing. Let's see. I see a biggest fan of Logic Pro on YouTube. That's me. But it could be somebody else you were talking about. I don't have any idea. I'm sure I've got a couple other CDs. Let's see where I'm missing it. They're talking about CDs in the chat. I'm definitely missing some part of this. Wonder if they'll fix and update on how to use it with videos. Do they ever update it to work with videos? I mean, Logic Pro has always supported video for a long time. I guess I don't know what you're talking about. I definitely have made mixed and written music scoring for films in Logic because you can definitely import movies right here. Open movie, and then you can do a lot of stuff with it. It's pretty powerful in that area. Oh my gosh, I see a bit. See, you guys are just having a conversation here without me. I love it. Let's see. I miss Cubase's chord track feature. So let's talk about Cubase for just 2 minutes, because it is one of those apps that I would definitely go to if Logic goes down the dark side. Cubase and Nuendo are amazing. We have inside Logic this the arrangement track, which you can put parts of the song and then move things around. In Cubase and Nuendo, they have a similar thing, but they have a list of all the sections, and you can reorganize it and repeat them. Way better. It's like they thought about it differently, and this is before Apple even had theirs. But they always just like, every time you do something in Cubase, there's like this certain logic to it. And it made sense. It just made sense how they do things in there. I love the the really practical approach to what Cubase is doing. I don't think like Studio One, former Studio One, now Fender Studio Pro, wasn't as much like that for me, although they have a lot of cool things. And the Fender Studio Pro, one of the biggest advantages they have over almost every other workstation is that it's still a young workstation. Not anymore, but it's like a fraction of the age of Pro Tools or Logic or even Cubase. And so they built it from the ground up. They didn't have all of the features at the beginning, but they've been adding them and adding them without maybe some of the original bloat still getting in the way. I feel like that's what's happened with Logic to a certain degree. This is old code in the core of it. And why on this channel I've talked a number of times about how I still feel this way, even though I don't think it's happening tomorrow. I think it'll happen in a year, is my guess. When we get rid of all of the Intel stuff and Rosetta goes away, I bet you the version of Logic we'll all be using is the iPad version. That'll just get transitioned over to the Mac. Let's see tomorrow when we do some of the videos. We're going to talk about that and see if any of the features that they've added feel more like the iPad version than the OS version, the Mac OS version. We'll see. I'm still guessing. But that's one of my predictions based on other things that Apple has done over the years. Sources. Oh, talking about Isotope. Pete Rock says SonarWorks does the same thing with headphone calibration files. But not everything has a calibration file though, right? Not every headphone. SonarWorks definitely, my opinion of SonarWorks has changed over the years. I feel like, and this is maybe based on some insider trading information, they're more interested in consumer electronics rather than what we do. And so those products are great, slightly gimmicky, but you have to pay for it. And if you already have a biodynamic set of headphones, then that plugin is just a free thing. Just free. You have to find your serial number. Let's see. Lout One says, I'm not saying that right, but I'm curious if you think Apple is dedicated to Logic and wants to be, or thinks they already are the best. Like in their in their corporate offices, they have folks walking around, hard focus on Logic being number one. Huh. That's a tricky question. Apple, let me put it this way. Apple has invested a lot into Logic. There's no question. They have invested over and over and over into Logic in ways that some other apps have not done. I don't think. I know they're like the rich step parents or whatever, whose idea of investment is just to buy some other company, take them away from the rest of the world so that just Logic users have them because we asked for a pony at Christmas. We're going to get a damn pony at Christmas, right? Yes, sometimes misguided as that may sound, it's the way that the Logic and Apple team feel like they're giving us love by buying other companies and incorporating it into this workflow. Ugh, that's okay. As a Logic user, I accept these gifts. Camel Audio, Redmatica, like some of our old strings are original Vienna strings. I don't know where. It's like we don't always find out where things come from, but we've got some amazing instruments. The new studio piano, maybe they made that all themselves. I don't know. It's like we've got some really cool things over the years. Alchemy came that way. I mean, it's like over and over and over we can see that. I'm okay with that. And then they're building things that right now are the buzzwords, the stem splitter. Every application right now has to have a stem splitter of some kind, and they made theirs better than most. And it doesn't look like, according to what I've been able to find online, doesn't look like they just bought a stem splitter or are licensing it. They actually are using their own tech for this. Tech that we're seeing in other places, by the way. Apple Music, when they do like the voice removal, so you can do the karaoke version. I mean, all of that stuff is similar tech. So they've got somebody smart working on this. And the result is one of the best stem splitters I've ever heard. I'm not saying it's the best out there. There are teams that are just focused on that one thing, and Apple's focused on a bazillion things, but we're better than like what Ableton just released. Theirs is not horrible, but it's not as good. And I know the built-in Cubase one, they have the other, like the bigger version that people say, you got to check this out. You can't just look at the stem splitter. I'm like, well, I'm looking at the stem splitter because the two things are the same. And then you have this other, I can't remember what it's called right now. Maybe somebody can remember, but it's apparently really good. I mean, can you imagine if Celemony with Tonalic and Melodyne decided to do like the best stem splitter in the universe? They could. We'll see if they're not doing it that we know of. Maybe somebody's working on it. Okay, let's see. Okay, so P Rock is saying, I sent them my headphones and they made a calibrated file to be flat. Helps when mixing. Cool. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. That's awesome. I do remember now that was a thing. We, during the pandemic, used SonarWorks with all of our students to help them mix better when we couldn't be in person. Oh man, what an era that was. I'm one of the few people in the universe who ever taught an immersive audio surround sound class on Zoom. I mean, think about that for 10 seconds. How did that work? It did work. We made it work really coolly, actually. But like the teacher evaluations by the students at the end were way higher than I was expecting. Because it turns out not everything always matters. What matters most when you're learning and teaching is that somebody cares about you. Literally, that's all we ever want. Is somebody to like see us, notice us, and then give a shit. And then we get to like feel like it's like a warm, fuzzy place. That's what sometimes I feel badly about with Logic, because I don't think that they see us. I think we're using their software because we love the software, and a lot of the identity of the software came long before Apple was in charge of it. And they're just trying to carry the torch. I do believe the people on the actual Logic development team care. I think that they're good people. But they're stuck in the middle of this huge mega corporation that has to answer to, shareholders and have this money part all the time. And so we have this like weird team that's looking up and looking down, and they often have to do what they're told. So, we can't fight that part. Not trying to be tricky, but wonder if the folks working on Logic are down in the basement or it is something people talk about. So I was kind of just talking about that. I don't think they're in a basement. No, I mean, it's a big asset of Apple. And there are people who are using this and buying it. I think, and I wonder if they painted themselves into a little bit of a corner. And this is what drives me crazy about all you people. You people, I'm talking to all of you who are watching this, who say subscriptions are the worst. Like, yes, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that sentiment. Here's the problem. Like, I've been using the same version of Logic since the App Store started selling it. I got it on there, right? And I've never paid for an update ever since. I've been using this thing for years, downloading it whenever I want to, putting it on all of my computers whenever I feel like it, and I haven't paid another cent. How is that a business model? Now, for many, many moons, I've talked about how logic is more about getting people to buy the computer. You have an affordable piece of software that gets people to buy the computer. And so in that sense, yes, there are times that I might have considered getting a Windows computer if it weren't for the fact that Logic only works on Mac, right? It only works on a Mac. So now when I go to get a new computer, it's always a Mac. I've overpaid my dues for Logic Pro and the number of computers I've consumed over my career. Easily have overpaid my dues towards Apple and the Logic team in the number of computers I've had purchased solely because I use Logic Pro. And as an extension, then I end up using Final Cut Pro. And now I'm on an iPhone and I've got an iPad, and all of those things in my one case are because of Logic Pro. If Logic Pro were to go away, I would switch to something else. I'm not that in love with Apple, but I am in love with Logic. And Logic has always been a part of my creative process. When I talk to students, I say, here are the workstations that are like tape machines. They capture your music, you record it, and then you mix it using all these other tools. But the main software is like a tape machine. It just goes in and then comes out. That's like Pro Tools to me. Pro Tools has always been like a tape machine, a really good tape machine, a reliable one for the most part, but it's a tape machine. Reaper is like a tape machine. To a lesser degree, but somewhat, Cubase and Nuendo are like fancier tape machines. Logic is like a violin or a musical instrument that you actually have to play and get to know and learn all the quirks, because it's going to give you stuff that you don't even mean to take from it if you're not careful. You have to actually learn how it works. You have to practice it. You have to do all this, spend all this energy getting to know it. And when you do one thing, it does something. When you do something else, it acts a little bit unexpected. It's contributing as an instrument would to our progression. If you play like a $50 violin that you got at the music store as opposed to a Stradivarius, they're going to sound different automatically. With any amount of skill that you get, the Stradivarius would sound better and better and better. And it would bring some richness and character and some prestige to the process. That's what Logic is for me. It's a musical instrument that I had to actually sit in a practice room practicing over and over and over in order to know how to get it to what I wanted to do. And now I'm at that point. It's like I'm teaching a class to students on campus right now, all about songwriting and Logic. They're the songwriters. I'm teaching them Logic. And it's like there's a kid who's like, I've been using this for like 6 or 7 years. And I've taught myself. And in the first class, I'm like, well, let's everybody set this up and do this. I'm like, I'm teaching this and something. He's like, whoa, I just learned like all these things that I didn't know. And awesome. It's like, that's what he needs now to be able to be a better songwriter in Logic, because just teaching yourself is often not enough. That's why we have such great content creators on YouTube. Music Help Tech Guy, and I'm a Music Mogul, and Why Logic Pro Rules. It's like, I don't feel any like weird competition or jealousy of those guys. They're awesome. We have really passionate people who use this, who are teaching people how to use Logic, and it's amazing because it's complicated. It doesn't matter that it's called Logic. It is illogical as hell half the time. It is insanity, some of the things we have to do to make it work. And one of the students in the class yesterday says, I feel like Logic is one of those programs that if you don't know how to use it, it's so confusing. But the moment you learn, everything makes sense. And that's the the motto I live by with this thing. That's exactly right. Once you get past a certain point of learning it, then it can do almost anything. But before you're at that point where you're ready, it can be very confusing. And some people, let's see. Bad is saying, I don't mind paying for a discounted proper update. Me neither. Ugh, I wouldn't want to all the time, but... and then Plastodon says, I can't stand Windows. It's such a mess. We'd have to go back to the days where we really lock it down. I mean, that's what it used to be. I have run some studios in my career where we used Windows computers. There was for one period of time, we had one of those, what is it called? Creation Station from Sweetwater, where they like prep it up. It's in a rack mount Windows computer, and they load it up with all the specs, and then they would set all the settings in Windows, and then we would only hook it up to the internet when we needed an update. But back then, most of the updates were on CDs, and no students were allowed to install video games or anything, and that thing worked awesome as long as we never touched anything that we weren't supposed to touch. Let's see. Ethan Bibi says, creativity is key right now because someone with something is trying to drag you into not caring anymore. I think creativity has always been the thing. Let's be clear. You don't need to be the next Harry Styles or Taylor Swift, right? That's at a level that's different than most humans. It's like we don't need... our personal goals are probably never going to be that we want to be like the next Michael Jordan, or somebody like an athlete who performs like 1 out of 1,000,000 and everybody else then is like, whoa, that's incredible. No, it's like musical careers. I think the most meaningful ones I've ever seen are people who do like the community thing, and are well known in their community and have played gigs for people who know all their music, but they're not like doing like the sold out stadium tours. That's like a level that is unattainable by most people. And then there's the rest of us who do music for other reasons, and it contributes to our lives. And if we want and we're fortunate, we can make a career out of it. And that's awesome. Like, that's really meaningful. And people crave that. There are people who crave the bigger stars too. But there are people who just crave that community where you go out with your friends on the weekend and you're like at a local place with local musicians and everybody has an amazing time. Everyone feels enriched and edified. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need the millions of fans to have a career. What you need is a fan base that cares and is willing to invest. And then you're going to be okay and can actually do this either for yourself or for your whole career. Slop Addict says, Apple wants to be attractive to creative people as trendsetters, and these are often able to convince others to switch. Also, it is a way to lure them in to the complete Apple ecosystem. To be honest, if I ever switch to Windows, which is not my current plan because Logic Pro does seem to be staying on target, I would miss some of the Apple ecosystem. For instance, here's one example. I do my song on here. I want to go up and get in the car and drive someplace. Inside Logic, we can just hit this one button where it says share to voice memos. And then I walk up, I just hit that, walk away after it starts. I go up and in the car, it's already on my phone. When I'm in classes and I have students send me like an example of a song they're working on, I just have them airdrop it over to me. I mean, these things seem like simple things, but they are simple and complex. Under the hood, that's a lot of things to organize, and Apple makes it feel simple. And so people come in and it's just like works and it's beautiful. And that ecosystem has some strengths to it. I'm not going to lie. That part of the Apple stuff I love because it works. AirPlay stuff. I can just sit up in the living room and all of a sudden flip up what's on my phone onto the TV because I have an Apple TV box. And it's just like, okay, it just works until it doesn't. And then nobody knows what the F is happening. Let's see. I went from Logic Lite to Logic Express to Logic Pro. Man, I forgot about Logic Express. Whoa. Oh, those days. I mean, I just went straight into Logic Pro, but there were some fun things happening. What do you want? GNA 9061. Can we talk about Logic Update Chord ID? What would you like to talk about with that? Because we don't know a ton, except what they're saying is that it's going to be very detailed chord analysis. Tomorrow when it comes out, one of the first things we'll be trying, I'm going to be doing this with some old songs that I sang on a mini disc recorder when I was in high school, that I've always wanted to have, the chords and things all transcribed for me. I don't want to sit there and do it, but I'm going to put it in there and see what happens. It was on an auto-tune piano. See what it can really do. But once you do that, and I wish it was as elegant as Fender Studio Pro. Fender Studio Pro, you take the file, you just drag it up to the chord track, it does the analysis and puts it into chords. It looks so easy. This one is going to be a right click and a menu selection, and then we don't know yet what the dialogue looks like that pops up, but I'm sure it's going to give us some sort of options. If it doesn't, if it just does a behind the scenes conversion, that'll be a little bit interesting. However, we know what the chord track looks like now. So even if it does it up there, it's going to be a lot easier to go through and fix a couple of the chords if they're wrong or change them, because you just have to click on it and then you have the whole menu that we already know about. And so I'm feeling like it's going to be another one of those really streamlined, not very many options kind of things. Man, there's so many comments flying by. Ooh. Let's see. We have Lodvar Dude. No, you were saying booting up Windows makes me feel gross. Ooh, I love this. You are all some of my favorite people on the planet. I can tell just by what you say in the comments. Let's see. It's like some of the conversations I'm lost about because I don't know what you're asking. But if there's any questions that you really want asked and you're on kind of on the real time part of the stream, then put them back in the comments and I'll get to them right now. The smart quantize feature. Yeah. Does anybody else GNA do that? I don't think anybody, not that I know of. I don't know anybody else that has the classic quantize, the smart quantize, everybody has groove quantize, but the groove quantize is really good. And then we have the groove track quantization. All of this is MIDI audio agnostic, means it can do it in both of those things. I mean, the quantization features in Logic over the years have just gotten better and better and better. And it's been one of those quiet updates, one of the sneaky ones, not the ones that get under the press release or at the top of the release notes. It's always down further in the release notes where they're like, hey, we just did this thing. And now we're making it better. And this time we made some of the quantization work better. It's just like always been creeping up. It is so good. So the Smart Quantize actually does things with, like, instead of the chordal simultaneities when you play like a chord and every note happens at once, which rarely happens with fingers when you play, but when you quantize the traditional way, it would do that. It actually makes it more like a keyboardist would do it. And so you get that teeny bit of a finger roll like the fingers would do. And it's built in. It's another example of something that I would say like half of the people who use Logic are like, what are you talking about? And yet it's a thing that's in there in this beast of a program where there's a bazillion different options. How do you master this piece of software? You have to use it a lot. And you have to read that stupid manual, which I've read many times. I'm trying to get my current class of students at the university to fall in love with reading the manual. I don't think it's going to happen this semester, but I'm going to try. They have their first reading assignment from it for tomorrow, and then we're going to talk about what they read, and I'm going to explain to them how the manual can be like something that they embrace this semester. You should all read it at some point. There's things in there that blew my mind. There's the one where you can open up automation in a separate main window, but only when the like one of the data editors is open at a certain time. It's like, it's on one little paragraph in the manual someplace deep. And inside that new main window, it doesn't have any of the audio or MIDI, it just has automation, and you can lock it all separate from its actual content. It was one of the few ways to do this one technique in film scoring to make it, because all the automation is tempo based. And so if you're doing something with audio and you don't want the audio to change, but you change the tempo, then the automation would change. It's one of those things in Logic that is the most illogical thing I've ever seen. So we'd have to time code lock the automation in the automation window to make sure. You could also maybe select it in one of the editors as well, but it was way more cool to do it in the most complicated thing on the planet. If you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, that's okay. Let's hope you never have to explore that particular set of circumstances. There's nothing new yet about scale highlighting Dignitas music, but I'm excited to learn more about what they're doing in the piano roll. We haven't seen that many piano roll updates of late. And so if they're adding some new functions in there, again, for some of us, that's going to be huge game changers, because heck to the yeah. If you have an M1 Max, yes, you will be able to use the new version of Logic. That's for the Dreamer project. G&A, I use all of that. I use that all the time. Brother, it's amazing. Yes, I agree. Math. Oh, there's some back and forth conversation about a good cassette deck. I love that. Using like a tape deck on your master bus. That'd be cool. I would love the groove quantized to get enhanced. I've had mixed results, but currently I love it and had some. So I think with the groove quantized, not the groove track, I'm assuming you're talking about, but the groove, like making a groove template. So here's why I have to do this sometimes. I would love to see some additional features with the groove track. Groove track, you can only have one groove source, and then anything, so that you star that one, and then you have check marks for the others. And it's just a one source. So say I'm using different drums in different places. I don't want to put them on the same track or something. And so maybe there's not one consistent MIDI part throughout the whole thing. Then I have to like use a third track and drag all of the drums I want to that track and just mute it, but use it as the groove track source to control everything. I would love to have like the ability to have like multiple groove tracks and multiple groove track destinations. And there's a way you can star it with like a 1, star it with a 2, star it with a 3, and then check mark it with the one that corresponds, and have things just going back and forth. It would be so much more useful with complex projects to be able to do multiple groove tracks. So instead of that, we use the groove templates. So that's down at the bottom. If I had something selected, you'd see it down at the bottom. Make groove template, remove groove template from list. That's all these ones really are. And so you could just do one like 4-bar thing or an 8-bar thing or a 32-bar, whatever, and then just apply that to other ones. And then you use the other properties here to get it right in terms of how strong you want it to quantize. If there's like the offset, there's the amount of time before and after notes, that if it's outside the range, then it won't do it. I mean, you have to learn how to use all those things to get it right. And that's like, there's some work to that. It's almost better just to move the notes one at a time sometimes and get them to how you want them, which is always an option. And then just leave them. But the quantization stuff in Logic can be tricky. It is possible, I feel like, to get whatever result you really want. Yasha on the Beat says the update will probably be out later, tomorrow. Bad says, I'm glad Apple finally put the manuals out in PDF format again. That's so true. And for any of you, so AI, I don't even know, this might break the AI rule book. But ChatGPT with the paid version, I think, maybe even the free one, but I think it's the paid one. You can upload files and then have ChatGPT read things and summarize it for you. It can also do things like you upload the manual and say, hey, I'm trying to learn quantization. Give me like 5 different like activities I can do to get better at it. And instead of reading or regurgitating, it'll give you like a homework assignment. This is one of my favorite parts about these technologies. Not the ones that are like trying to be a musician and do creative things, but the ones that are like, hey, help me learn this. Come up with an activity that's going to help me memorize this. And then it takes something you've uploaded, reads it, and creates those things. I think that's actually useful. Okay, so you were talking about the groove track. In that case, it does need work. It does need work. It's like very limiting. The groove templates, however, are the solution currently. It's just the groove track needs more. Yeah. Okay, so someone's saying the groove template is restricted to 16 bars total. Let me just verify that because I'm curious. So I'm going to do something. I don't want to do that one. I want to do something that's longer. So this is 24 bars. And maybe it is limited, but it let me do it. And it was longer. So maybe it's not an obvious limitation, but it let me just do one that's 24 bars. So either way. Notebook LLM is also a good one. And you can also, I agree. There's actually, it's like we sometimes reach for chat, but it's not always the best one. Do you think they will have added Gemini into Logic instead of ChatGPT? That is a possibility because we all know that that's coming. And so that is possible. In fact, for those of you who saw the rumors not too long ago, somebody typed into Gemini something about the Logic update, and it came back with talking about the developer version of Logic and how it was updating some synthesizers in Logic, which is one of the few under talked about rumors that I believe could actually be true. We don't know this for sure. They didn't talk about it, but it would make sense because we're getting the new session synthesizer player tomorrow. And some of our synthesizers, functionality-wise, are incredible. Sound design-wise, they're incredible. But overall sonic quality, they are just mediocre. In terms of like some of the aliasing style noises. Now, for any of you who are like super geniuses with audio, I don't want to get into the aliasing stuff, but we need some oversampling and better filter implementation, and we need those for those synthesizers because when I play one of those, I can hear in the high frequencies some of those things folding down, and it's not what I would call like great. But if they fix those engines like that rumor did, and the only reason it all of a sudden got legs was at first, the rumor came from someone entering stuff into Gemini, just Gemini. And then like a week or two later, Apple announced that Gemini is the new AI that they're working with. And all of a sudden I was like, wait a second. Gemini knows some stuff all of a sudden. That would be just like Google to have a slip up with secret data and affecting an Apple release. We'll see. About the standalone 90-day trial, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The update is out tomorrow. That's why we're doing this one last stream today. Man, we've got a good crowd here. We're long past kind of the information about it that we know, but we're now just shooting the shit and having a good time. Let's see. Will the stem separation still be restricted? Yes, always. It will never work on Intel devices. Matter of fact, the big thing that I've been hearing. So I found in the press release some of the notes that seem to suggest there was a small chance that the standalone version would not require silicon of this new version. And I posted it on one of the Facebook groups yesterday because I was doing something sneaky. I know somebody who comments a lot who happens to be on the beta team for Logic. They don't know that I know. It happened by accident a couple years ago, unless they stopped being on it, which is possible. But they made a comment about how it is definitely all just silicon now for this new version. So I trust that. I trust this person's response, which said Logic, the new update, is silicon only. There is no version of it that's going to work on Intel. So there's that part. See you later, Ludvar dude. Lodvar. Let's see. Yes. 211 says guitar amps need huge upgrade. Isn't that the truth? Has anybody tried to actually use them and get good sounds out of them? Has anybody? And, been what they consider like highly successful? Because I've used and tried. I'm not a guitar player in that sense. That's one of the reasons why I was hoping so much that we were getting a session guitarist. And one of the reasons why even today I'm still considering using the Tonalic from Celemony with their guitar stuff, but it's the workflow is not smooth without having ARA support for Logic. So if I wanted to use Fender Studio Pro, then that would be great. Without it, we're kind of like we're lost. Yeah, the amps and pedals are terrible. They look dumb. Well, not the amps. The pedals look dumb. I think the pedals look stupid. There, I said it. The amps look cool, and it's like you have that ability to move the microphone around and choose a different microphone, but they're just missing something that a guitar amp actually does, which is partly how it reacts to the strings in different octaves and different notes, the way that it just doesn't create that cohesive sound and it gives us weird harmonic relationships. They just don't sound perfect. And if they could redo those engines and integrate the same technology that we got with ChromaGlow. Now, ChromaGlow, I didn't realize how controversial ChromaGlow is for some of you, feeling that it takes up too much processing power, which is, can you imagine if it wasn't running on the silicon matrix chips, the machine learning stuff? Can you imagine if you wanted to use that particular thing on an Intel Mac, how bad it would crap out? That being said, I've used that thing, and the nuance of it is incredible. If you push it hard or don't really know what you're going for, it's going to be like kind of blah. But that thing has nuance out the wazoo. It's so good. And because of that, I know that Apple knows how to do the guitar amps. They know how to make them sound good. Now we just need them to do it. Incorporate that same capture of that analog gear of the guitar amps, and we would have some of the best sounding guitar amps in the universe. The question is, or maybe the issue is, is it really low enough latency to actually play a guitar through that technology? That's the question. I don't know. But this is the one thing that if they were to do that, any one of you who have like an old M1 would have to be like, well, I guess I have to get one of the newer ones now. And I need one that has way more processing threads because that's what's going to keep us moving forward. It's like at some point, I can imagine the meeting at Apple where they're like, well, our computers are so powerful that even the old ones run our Pro apps just fine. Logic Pro barely even touches the CPU. And they're like, well, what can we do to make it so people still need to upgrade their computers? And they came up with ChromaGlow as one of them because that thing is a beast. And they maybe could have simplified it. Other companies have similar products that are simpler in terms of the code, and they do a pretty good job. But something about ChromaGlow is slightly more fairy dust. And it's not like technology that is unknown or that we didn't know exist. It just does it at a higher level, higher resolution, either more bands of frequency split or, slightly more detailed curves of what's happening across the frequency range. Whatever it is, it uses more CPU. But that technology is what we want in the guitar amps, for sure. The pedals. I mean, we want that stuff in there because that's what's going to make those amps and pedals sound like just freaking amazing. Yeah, okay, so Cloud says, as a guitar player, the amps and pedals are fine for stock sounds. There you go. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's better than I could have said it. I couldn't have said it better. They're like a good stock thing. They added something in there, but it's not. I think the ones in Fender Studio Pro are better because the Fender brand had to put their brand on them, and so they wanted them to sound better. We just need. I would love to do it better. If you are a guitar player, you're not using those for final products. You're going to get something that that works at a higher level. That's okay too. By the way, Guitar Rig from Native Instruments is for sale. I shouldn't laugh. That's not actually funny. There's a lot of people's lives that are going to be affected by that. So anyone who's just joining and has not read the news, Native Instruments has just filed the preliminary things for insolvency, which means that it's essentially like going bankrupt, kind of. They cannot sustain, so now they're being taken over and being sold for parts. And that's the other thing, Lodvar, you're right about that as well. It's like you could just track without it and then put it on afterwards. But some people are going to want it. I mean, that's like the question of, do we need to or do we want to? Sometimes we want to. Yes. Z says, does any DAW have a stock plugin that's better than third-party plugins? Logic has a number of them. Mostly the instruments, though. Like EQ and compression are as good as anybody for just traditional models in Logic. Like we don't have a dynamic EQ. We don't have a good multipressor or a good stereo split. Those are stock. But one thing about Logic is that it's known for having one of the best set of default plugins. It's known for that. They pride themselves on giving us a bundle of things that all sound really good. And so it's more noticeable when some of them don't hold up to that standard, like the guitar amps. In terms of instruments, like sculpture is unmatched in this world. Anybody want to tell me another string modeled instrument like that's better? I would love to hear it. Alchemy has the potential to be as good as any complex synthesizer in the universe, but whoever made the library of presets for it needs to like rethink their life and and commit to doing better. Because that library of sounds is just mediocre. But its potential is as good as anybody. It's no Omnisphere library, that's for sure. Whoa. Like we have like 3,000 patches. Omnisphere is like 30 to 40,000 patches. Whoa. But the EQs, the compression, reverb, QRS, the Quantec is unrivaled for what it does. It's the best. There are other amazing reverbs that are different than that one that are considered the best, but the QRS is one of the best additions into Logic that they've ever added, in my opinion, in terms of some of the, the spatial reverb type time-based effects. What else do we have inside Logic that is as good as anybody else? Space Designer as a reverb, because you can synthesize impulses straight from the interface. That's really good. In fact, we've had other software copy that one after that. No surprise, Ableton now has an impulse response that you can do impulses and synthesize them from the same interface. Surprisingly, just like Space Designer. Delay Designer. I'm sure there's other ones. All of our instruments are great. Oh, the sampler. Don't get me started on talking about sampling. Anybody who watches this channel more than one video knows my feelings about Logic Pro sampling capabilities. Again, not because somebody at Apple was like a genius sampler. I'm sure there are some, but they bought Redmatica like 10 or 15 years ago, and it was the best sampler that anybody had ever invented. And now that's all part of Logic, and there's none that are better. I don't care what you think. In combination, the scripter with the sampler, with the quick sampler, with Alchemy, which does sampling, with Sample Alchemy, with the auto sampler, there's nobody that does sampling like Logic Pro at all. It is the best, hands down. Contact would give it a run for its money because some of the scripting is built right into it. But the thing that is nice about the Contact stuff is the banks that were designed with the engine. The actual engine itself is no better than anything inside Logic. And we just need somebody. We need Apple to be like, hey, collaborators, let's make a bunch of content and let's give you some money for doing it. And then let's build an ecosystem that rewards people who make stuff for Logic, and then they get paid like they've done with the App Store. And then we would all be happy. We have this drought of content for some of the Apple tools right now inside Logic, and nobody's working to fix it as far as I can tell. And so that would be the thing that if I could ever see that happen, then I would feel like Logic is really here for the long run. It's been here for the long run. But every once in a while, I get nervous when we haven't had an update in 6 months. It's been 6 months since since 11.2.2 is out. 6 months. Oh. Gee. Z says, I think a little bit of work on Alchemy will make it on par with Serum, Faceplant, Omnisphere. I know it's really good, but it's not as flexible as the other ones. It's just different. They're all a little bit different. But again, I really stand by the thing that's where I said it's the library that comes with it that's the weak link right this moment. It just is. It's just not as good as the others. They need someone with vision to come in there and organize the banks for those. Drum kits are good. The drum synths, the drum machine designer, the drum kit designer, all of those are actually really good. Our keyboard, the piano, and then the new bass session player instrument, that bass player is as good as anything out there in my opinion as well. And then Zach says to be honest, my only problem with Logic is how it looks. Ugly gray. It's so true. Oh. I wish they'd make a deal with somebody with a really cool console look, like SSL or whoever your favorite console is, and then like incorporate some of those elements in here and give us like color schemes to do different models and make it look sexy as heck. Okay, I just did not say that out loud about Logic Bro, but that's what I'm thinking. It's like, make it look cool. Make it look so cool. They could do it. Instead, we're probably at some point going to get like menus that have like glass aesthetic as you drag them over. That's what Apple thinks is cool right now. Glass. Apple Glass. Oh, I'm glad that dude is no longer at Apple. Optimize versus original. I still see supposed top producers hovering over the two and wondering which one to use. I love that. I have a clue which one's better. We don't know that anything's actually going away from contact or any of those other things, but it's going to be a time of great tumult. A lot of rocky times for the people who work at Native Instruments and for those who use Native Instrument products. As I said earlier, it's like we should make a video that says just over and over and over, if you use Native Instruments anywhere in your workflow and they're important, stop updating your computer and your software right now. And don't update again until we know who's going to be updating those apps that you need. Isotope's one of them. A lot of people rely on Isotope. Your one update in a DAW or an operating system from something breaking unexpectedly and no one being able to fix it. We just don't know. I don't agree, Bad, about drum synths needing envelopes and LFOs because they're instruments and we have our MIDI effects and we have one of the most amazing LFO and envelope systems in there. And so you can definitely use those in that way. On top of that, you can use Drum Machine Designer and put a different drum synth on each of the banks and then put LFOs and stuff in the part of that system to control them. It just takes one time to make it and then you can reuse it as a preset every time. So Dr. Voodoo's asking, what do you think the outcome will be about Native Instruments? Well, those are good assets, but they were mismanaged. I saw some people talking about it was too horizontal, meaning they just kept expanding sideways into the same like markets and they weren't able to manage it or really improve or innovate in any of them. So hopefully what happens, people who are passionate will buy some of those assets up and then keep on developing them. Worst case, somebody will buy up some of those assets in the form of the people and then close down all the software. We've seen that happen for sure. Maybe even worst case is that nobody wants to invest anything in them and they just like disappear. It is possible. There's a chance that some of what they do, I don't fully understand the whole process. It's different than the bankruptcy in the United States, which is really designed to eliminate debt so that you can refresh and invest in the infrastructure to do what you need to do. We're talking this is in Berlin. Maybe somebody who understands European Union law can talk about it. But the way the article was written was saying that they are going to be forced to sell off these things. And it's not an option just to get rid of the debt and start over. They're going to actually have to dissolve a number of things. So it's scary. And Dr. Voodoo, you said it, not me. Although, because when I say stuff like that, I'll get hate mail for weeks. I once said something about, maybe with Synthesizer V or something, or I can't remember what I said, but I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if this was tightly integrated into Logic and Apple took it off their hands? And like, I got hate mail for weeks. How dare you suggest that this really cool product would just be a Logic Apple only product? And I'm like, you know what? Suck it. This is my channel. I get to say what I want, but it's still, I was trying to avoid. all of the people who hate when I suggest Apple should buy something. Oh, Logic would get everything. It's a lot of investment though. And Apple's not a risk taker, meaning they're not looking at something that just failed and thinking, "Woo, that we could make that work." But there are parts that they could justify. There are parts that they could justify making work, and I think that would be cool. Whoa. Well, we've gone. What time is it? We've been on this stream for an hour and a half. And I think it's time for me to go up and get some lunch. And I did not sleep great last night. It was weird. I had some other issues preventing me from sleeping. But when I did sleep, this is how we'll end this stream. This is going to sound so dumb, but when it gets close to the update, Logic is a big part of what I do. I'm teaching classes at the university. I'm using it all the time. And so when it comes to update season, I have like the craziest stupid dreams about Logic. And I dreamed that they turned the interface into like some sort of mystery puzzle game. And so when you would open up Logic, you would see like scenes from like people's houses, and you have to click on things to find like the murder weapon and things. Like some stupid weird dream about Logic Pro. Like I needed that of all things, like having some sort of nightmare that Logic got turned into some like App Store video game. Ugh. So tomorrow, just as a recap for everyone who's on here, I will be streaming right in the middle of the day, in between my classes for 1 hour, because we're going to see if it's out at that point, and we'll do a countdown stream. And then if it doesn't come out till after in the afternoon, whenever it comes out, the soonest I can stream, I will do an introductory stream. And then in the evening, we will do a reading of the release notes. We go through every single item on the release notes. It's been 6 months since the last release, so we're expecting, 1,000 or so small things to have been tweaked and changed. And so we'll read through every single one of them and see what makes a difference in our workflows. And then over the next few days, we'll do demonstration videos about how the chord ID thing works and the synthesizer player, and then whatever else they give us, we'll be doing videos about. You, of course, will be inundated by videos by other channels. Some of them are going to be awesome. I'm going to be watching some of them probably too, but this is the place where we do the more of the live stream conversational type stuff. So come back for that, and we'll keep on talking. Bad wants me to do a reading of the manual series for ultra nerds. Oh my gosh, that would be awesome. Oof. Talk to you later. This is it. I'm pulling the plug.